Now, I want to share a story with you. In fact, I always chuckle as I remember the story because not long after arriving in Phnom Penh in 2015, Han Song and Cui Ling from the family zone, they took no pay leave and they brought their entire family to help build the church together with my family. And thinking back now, it was such an enormous gesture of generosity and kindness that I can never thank them enough for. So this one day, we were going out for ministry, and I had to use Google Maps, right, to get to my destination because I was not very familiar with the roads yet. And as a typical Singaporean, I wanted the fastest way. So even though on the maps, the fastest way looked suspiciously windy, I didn't think twice about taking it. But soon, it took me through dirt roads, and I found myself deep in the middle of a kampong on a very narrow path outside an abattoir. That's like a slaughterhouse, right? And I thought to myself, okay, this can't be right. But Google Maps is still showing that I'm on the right way. So I'm thinking to myself, do I continue to follow? I got off the car and saw that it could fit the narrow path just nice. Okay, just nice. So I proceeded slowly, and I almost immediately regretted it because once I cleared the abattoir, the road became a tall grass path that was precariously next to a river without any barriers. Not Singapore, right? No choice, I had to just move forward because I was now committed to this way. So I inched bit by bit until I finally reached the end where the final part was a steep, sandy incline. And we made it up the steep incline and got back onto the normal road. And you can imagine how rowdy the car was by then. Every adult, every child, we were all cheering at the top of our voice. As I look back from higher ground, I realized we had just taken a huge detour through the kampong. I would have ended up on this very road I was now on if I had simply kept to the normal roads. So lame. If only someone had shown me the way. I wouldn't have needed to go through that experience. But because I had gone through that way, I would know forever now not to take it the next time. I now know the truth that I can never unknow. And in fact, because I now know this truth, it shaped the life I led in Phnom Penh. And each time I drove past that area, I would chuckle to myself as I recalled the screams from the adventure of that afternoon. If only I had someone who had gone before me to tell me. So, when Jesus says in John chapter 14, verse 6, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. It was the ultimate gesture of enormous generosity and kindness. Why? Because Jesus was telling us how to get to live with God in heaven forever as someone who has gone before us. He is that someone I wished I had to tell me to keep to the normal roads. Except that Jesus was giving directions to a far bigger claim. He was telling all of mankind how to go to God and be with Him in His house forever. How? Through Him. Think about it. Why has this claim continued to persist even after 2,000 years? I believe that's because a way founded on truth will become life for those who believe. I also believe it's exactly because of this exclusivity that Jesus not only revealed to us a bigger reality, but through it, He showed us that only He can satisfy our deepest longings. And till this day, countless people are discovering this for themselves as they accept Jesus' claim and follow His directions. And the best part? Well, Jesus makes this freely available to anyone who will listen and believe Him. So let us examine today what Jesus said in John chapter 14, verse 6 in greater detail to see if He was a lunatic or a credible source. And the first part of it, He says, I am the way to God, and no one else comes to the Father except through me, through Him. First point is this: Jesus, the way to God. Now, I believe that all of us have an instinctive desire to control where we go. That's why we have phrases like the driver's seat. For students, we feel like we're in the driver's seat where we know which schools we want to apply for and then gaining the entry acceptance that we are looking forward to. And for working professionals, we feel like we are in the driver's seat when we know what our KPIs are and then meeting or, better still, exceeding them. For drivers, well, we feel like we're in the driver's seat when we know how to go to where we want to go. But not knowing how to get there can be a very scary thing. Can you imagine rushing to the airport in a foreign land to catch a flight back home in your rental car, only to get lost and miss your flight because you could not read the road signs of that country? It nearly happened to me once. You know, when you want to get to somewhere but can't because you don't know how, that is a really scary thing. And Jesus made a claim so outrageous, so exclusive, that it polarized Jewish society at that time and was one of the chief reasons why it eventually cost him his life by a cruel execution, by crucifixion on a cross. And 2,000 years later, this statement continues to be equally outrageous and exclusive, especially to first-time listeners, that it continues to polarize much of human society. All while Jesus was only trying to give assurance to the destination we will end up at after we die. In fact, even the closest disciples of Jesus had their doubts. On the night before Jesus' crucifixion, he told them that he would be leaving them. And they were wondering, but how to get there, the disciples did not know. And because they raised their doubts to Jesus, Jesus answered with the certainty of someone with ultimate credibility. So let's read from John chapter 14, verses 1 to 7 to understand the background to why Jesus said he is the way, the truth, and the life. And in John chapter 14, verses 1 to 7, it says this: "Do not let your hearts be troubled." This is Jesus speaking to his disciples. "You believe in God, believe also in me. My Father's house has many rooms. If that were not so, would I have told you that I'm going there to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that you also may be where I am. You know the way to the place where I'm going." But doubting Thomas said to him, "Lord, we don't know where you are going, so how can we know the way?" And then this is where Jesus answers in verse 6, "I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you really know me, you will know my Father as well. From now on, you do know him and have seen him." Now, coming back to the credibility on a topic, subconsciously or maybe very consciously for some of us, credibility on a topic is a big deal. We go into that mode, especially when we are taught something as the way or the truth. But nothing screams credibility more than someone who has knowledge on subject matters through first-hand experience. That's why in the army, warrant officers seem to have more gravitas and sway than young commissioned officers, no offense, because they are seen to fit into that old saying of, "I've eaten more salt than you have of rice." And a loose translation would mean, "I am way more experienced than you." Today, that is often seen by the younger generation as a prideful and lousy excuse for exercising authority and control. And in fact, Jesus did not hold that attitude in telling us that he is the way, the truth, and the life, because he knows that we are clueless about where to go or how to get there without him. So in fact, if Jesus, the Son of God and a resident of heaven, says that he is the way to that place, listen up. Because you can find your way to God if you listen to what he says. Without his directions, you will always be lost. This is the subject matter expert who knows exactly what he is talking about. Where we don't know how to get there, Jesus knows. Where we can't gain access to that place, Jesus can. And he opens the way for us all. And Jesus is doing exactly that. Instead of merely listening to first-hand witness accounts that still leave us as mere bystanders to their experience, Jesus is inviting us to be a part of it. I'll share with you another story now. It was like how Pastor Tiak shared with us about how great this durian store is near his place, and he brought us there one day. So the boss told us that if we came in the future, we would get discounts because Pastor Tiak is that very regular and good customer of his. So one day, I decided to test it out. I went back another day, and I tried to ask for a discount using Pastor Tiak's name. And obviously, that didn't work because they didn't know each other by name. So I had no choice but to go with Pastor Tiak's most identifiable feature. And I told the boss, 那个光头的 translation, he's that bald guy, And immediately the boss went, oh, yes, okay, I know him. And he gave me a discount plus other fruits for free. How nice it is to have access, isn't it? And in the same way, the best news is that through Jesus and Him alone, He has opened up the way and given us access to where we really want to go, but can't on our own. How has He done so? By removing the barrier blocking us from God, by taking on our sin, therefore opening our way back to God. That's why He had to leave His disciples to go on the cross and die. He was opening up the way for us back to God. Second, Jesus says He is the truth, and this truth comes from God as its source. Second point is this: Jesus, the truth from God. Recently we read in the news about how social media reported that our Singapore police force had allegedly bullied and harassed an elderly woman for not wearing her mask. And the police later came out with a statement saying that not done so, but they had in fact bought the elderly woman food and helped her home as she was suffering from dementia. Right? And the online Citizen Asia later contested the police statements by issuing a video of the woman allegedly confirming that she was indeed bullied by the police. At this point, really, if there was no further action taken by our police, if it was just looking at the situation as it is, I would probably say that the public opinion would be swaying against our police force. The truth seems credible when it's coming from a first-hand source after all, isn't it? However, the police took the unusual step of releasing body-worn camera footage of the incident after getting permission, after consulting family members of the elderly woman, where the entire exchange, along with what was said, could be clearly seen and heard. The footage supported the police's earlier statement on what went on in the incident and put to bed any dispute on that matter. And the elderly woman's daughter also expressed that she was upset that the online Citizen Asia used her mother, in her words, to spin a story. Now, from this incident, we can see that the truth can be maliciously distorted and disjointed events can be convincingly fabricated as the truth, although the denial of the truth never extinguishes truth. And more importantly, we conclude what truth is based on evidence. So if Jesus claims to be the truth, the question is, how can we know that for sure? What evidence is there that God is real and true? The answer is once again, Jesus. Jesus provided the evidence by rising from the dead. Jesus can credibly claim to be the truth from God because Jesus is the only founder of any religion in the world who claimed to be divine himself. And he didn't stop at mere talk. He proved his divinity by predicting that he would come back to life 3 days after his execution by crucifixion on a cross, and he actually did so. Now, if Jesus had not come back to life as he said he would, and listen to this, Christianity would have just been a grand, big hoax by just another normal human being that would not have survived 2 years, much less 2,000 years of constant criticism and scrutiny. The church definitely could not have sustained an invention of a character for this long. So to know that Jesus is divine through his resurrection gives us full evidential assurance that he is indeed credibly the truth. But okay, so maybe some of you are thinking, this is just a closed loop argument, of course, you are a Christian. And so this is like something made by Christians for Christians. Is there any other evidence showing the reality and truth of Jesus? Well, many people have heard of the now famous movie Ben-Hur, but not many know it was adapted from a book of the same name. Less of us know the name of the author as Lew Wallace. Even fewer people know how Lew Wallace came to write this epic novel. In fact, Lew was actually asked by his friend, a famous agnostic who didn't believe in Christianity, to write a book proving the falsity concerning the reality of Jesus Christ, that no such man ever lived, much less author the teachings found in the New Testament of the Bible. And his friend told him that not only would it showcase the foolishness of the so-called Jesus Christ, it would make him famous. So Lew started collecting material from libraries all over the world that covered the period in which Jesus Christ should have lived. He did that for several years, and then he began writing. He was just 4 chapters into the book when he concluded that Jesus Christ was as real a personality as Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, and Julius Caesar. In fact, take a look at this. The time gap between the original and the first surviving copies of the New Testament of the Bible is a mere 25 years, whereas most of the Greek material that we believe without question have a typical time gap of 1,000 years. Don't you agree that many things can get lost in translation in 10 years, much less 1,000 years? And how about the fact that the New Testament has 5,800 surviving copies recording consistently the teachings of Jesus? If we can hold on so tightly to the reality of Julius Caesar, and we learn this in literature all the time, based on the mere 10 copies with a 1,000-year gap between the original and first surviving copies, how much more can we reliably trust in the authenticity of the New Testament and therefore the reality of Jesus as truth, if there are 5,800 surviving manuscript copies written with only a 25-year gap between them, the original, and them? And Lew Wallace concluded that Jesus Christ was a real person and that he was whom he claimed to be, the Son of God. And with that, Lew accepted the Lord Jesus Christ into his life. And I read this story with great interest because it mirrored my own journey in finding out the truth of Jesus Christ for myself as well. And in the end, instead of writing a book against Christianity, Lew Wallace would go on to write about Christ. That's what the truth does. You are compelled into action. You end up needing to choose between accepting it or rejecting it. There's no two ways about it. And like Lew, if you dig deeper and focus on Jesus, it will point you to the ultimate reality of God, irrevocably true. And through Jesus, you will find the truth about God because as Jesus said, anyone who has seen him has seen the Father. Jesus reveals God. And finally, Jesus says, I am the life, and this life is found in God. The third point is this: Jesus, the life in God. I was really intrigued when I learned about grafting in school last time because I marveled at how plants could first survive being cut and then being reattached to another similar plant and restart its life there. In fact, many of the fruits that we eat today, like apples and mangoes, are a result of this horticultural technique called grafting. The top part, which produces the desired fruit, is called the scion, and the bottom part, which is basically the foundation on which the scion grows, is called the rootstock. And farmers use grafting as an agricultural technique for producing better crops because some of the plants they grow have rootstock that are not as robust, not as resilient against diseases. But through grafting, they are able to secure a higher success rate in fruitfulness. And in simple economic terms, a higher yield means a higher income. That's right. For those of you who know your wine, will know the Cabernet Sauvignon, right? And it is the world's most widely planted premium red wine grape, and its popularity is often attributed to its ease of cultivation, where the grapes have thick skins and the vines are hardy and naturally yielding, budding late to avoid frost and resistant to hazards such as rots and insects. Importantly, no matter where it is grown, the taste is consistent to showcase the typical character of this variety. But what perhaps most of us do not know is that the Cabernet Sauvignon came as a result of a chance grafting of the Sauvignon Blanc as a scion into the root system of the Cabernet Franc. The life force of the Cabernet Franc, a red grape, flows through the Sauvignon Blanc, a green grape, to produce the new vine that we are now very familiar with, the Cabernet Sauvignon, which is a red grape. You know, when Jesus says that He is the life, He is revealing to us the life that we can have if we are grafted onto Him. And in fact, here's how He puts it in John chapter 15, verse 5. And Jesus says this, I am the vine, and you are the branches. If you remain in me, and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Because apart from me, you can do nothing. Now think about it. What a wonderful privilege it is to be asked to remain in Christ. You know, think about it. What do God and man have in common? Yet now, Jesus is availing His life force to each and every one of us. And you know why grafting is so readily accepted as an agricultural technique by farmers all over the world? Yes, it increases crop yield and therefore revenue, but it can do so because grafting has the following benefits. The first one is this. It protects against disease. You know, the grafted plant gains protection from the resilience of the root. If we remain in Jesus as the root, we are better equipped to persevere through life and with a foundation that is firm and secure. Second, it makes you stronger. As a result of drawing nourishment from a rootstock that is immune to all kinds of diseases and hazards, the grafted plant grows healthily. And if we remain in Jesus, we live life drawing from an endless well of supply that will meet all our real needs. Third, it increases fruitfulness. Now protected and stronger, the healthy graft produces fruit. Now, this is often the main purpose of grafting. And if we remain in Jesus, we'll find that the output of our lives are congruent to the sense of purpose we have been searching for all along. It has that search for meaning and purpose to life because we are now grafted into the vine that gives the life we were meant to have right from the start. Fourth, it repairs damage. A damaged graft can be restored through connection with a healthy rootstock. And if we remain in Jesus, we can find healing, restoration, renewal, forgiveness, and freedom from the damaging effects of sin in our lives, both things we have done to others and others have done to us. And lastly, number 5, it yields consistent likeness. Through connection to a healthy root, future generations will bear a consistent likeness to the original root plant, much like the Cabernet Sauvignon. If we remain in Jesus, we will become a new me. Most of us spend our days modeling after someone whose qualities, well, we deeply admire, and whom better to model after than God Himself, for His qualities surpass even the best human we know. So maybe today you've heard of Jesus saying He's the way, the truth, and the life before. You know? Either from a sermon, a friend, or some printed material you've read. And you are now going through life, whether now it's a season of content or a season of turmoil, and you're wondering, how's all this applicable to me? I'd like to submit to you, both Christians and non-Christians, that we will always struggle with this question of application as long as we are avoiding answering the real and probably more inconvenient question of what do you want to do with Jesus? His bold claim confronts each one of us, and we need to decide if we will accept him in our life. Okay, so maybe one of your major objections is that this is such a bigoted, narrow-minded statement. Surely, God can be more generous than this. Well, I'd like to submit to you that precisely because it points to an ultimate reality that we will all one day enter into after this life, Jesus, remember, as someone who came from there, is showing us enormous generosity and kindness by being extremely clear in his directions. Now, imagine you have a flight to Japan to catch, and isn't that what most of us are waiting for in this pandemic? And on your flight ticket, all you see is Flight 967 to Tokyo, and next to it says Gates 1 to 20. And you don't understand why the ticket says that, but you figure that, perhaps someone will tell you once you reach the area. So you arrive, and you find that none of the 20 gates indicate the flight number or the destination. But there are planes on the tarmac, on the road, ready to fly, and people are also ready to board, but you don't know where they are headed. Finally, you turn to a group of strangers, and you ask them, hey, where's Flight 967 to Tokyo? And one says, usually they use the Boeing 747 to Tokyo, so I think Gate 3 has a Boeing 747. It should be that. And another one says, nah, my lucky number has always been 11. Why don't you try Gate 11? Yet another says, I remember the last plane to Tokyo departed from Gate 19. This time, it must be from Gate 19 also. Please go there. So, bewildered, you press in further and you ask, so guys, is it Gate 3, 11, or 19? To which they reply in unison, don't know, just try one lah. Frustrated, you finally approach counter staff and you ask them for the gate number to board the plane to Tokyo. And the staff says, it is not our policy to tell people which gate they have to fly out of. That would be pretty narrow-minded, wouldn't it? I mean, these are all wonderful planes with hardworking crews and sincere passengers. Who are we to say that one is better than the other? Just take whichever one you want. They are all valid routes to the same destination. How ridiculous and irresponsible would that be? I'd like to submit to you that it is also equally ridiculous to say that all roads lead to heaven, and equally irresponsible to withhold information that can help people to go wherever they want to go. And the way Jesus puts it is wonderfully generous and kind because he is being extremely clear. It's not the narrow-mindedness that we often think about, but his extremely clear directions is being kind. And as Sherlock Holmes, a well-known fictional detective of the early 20th century who could solve almost anything and everything, said, when you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. And now, however improbable, if you are confronted with the reality that Jesus Christ is indeed who he claims to be, the Son of God, who is the way, the truth, and the life for you, will you choose to allow yourself to be grafted into him so that his life force can flow through you and start you on your way back to God? How can you do so? By accepting Jesus into your life today if you're not yet a Christian, or continue giving lordship of your life to Christ if you are already a Christian. Then, and only then, will you be able to end the incessant search for purpose and meaning and the insatiable desire for significance in life. Because only when you remain in Jesus can you truly find rest from all those things. And famous 20th century psychologists define what all those things that people chase after all their lives as this. Freud said that people are hungry for love. Jung said that people are hungry for security. Adler said that people are hungry for significance. Now, I would say astute observations, but I think Jesus came to reveal to us a more complete, in fact, the most complete picture, that our ultimate hunger in life is really for God, and only he can satisfy that need completely. And again, Jesus doesn't stop there, leaving us helpless. He came from heaven to earth to show us that he is indeed the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through him. And as someone who had previously gone through this path and decided that I would accept Jesus for myself, I can assure you that once you have discovered the ultimate reality of God, you'll be wondering to yourself, why didn't I discover Him earlier? Why didn't I accept Him earlier? So today, I'm appealing to you to turn to Jesus and discover for yourself the fullness of remaining in His divine nature and experience a richness and security to life that are truly out of this world.